So Denia's kit just got released, and there are quite a few things that you guys need to be aware of before she's officially released in the game. And it's quite alarming because it places some sort of limitation on the kind of teams that you can build with her. So in today's video, I'm going to go over the kit information that we have about Denia to kind of like give you guys an idea of how she plays, and then I'm going to cover the possible teams that you can build with her, and also I'll cover the build choices that you can use depending on the team that you're going for. And keep in mind that the limitation that I mentioned earlier can actually be fixed to some extent depending on the build that you're running. So let's get right into it. So starting off, we have normally tags. Let's call this form right here, let's call this form light mode, and let's call this form dark mode. Now keep in mind that you can do similar things in both forms. Like in the light mode or the light form, you can do basic attacks, you can do heavy attacks, and then you can use her skills as well. And in the dark mode, you can do the same thing, but the only difference is that the animation changes and the kind of damage that you do, or the amount of damage that she does in the dark mode, is actually more compared to the light mode. Now in the light mode, she can do normal attacks, and these normal attacks will mainly be used to generate stacks. And these stacks are called void particles, but let's just call them, since Denia is a fusion character, let's just call these stacks orange stacks, all right, for simplicity's sake. And keep in mind that the orange stacks that she can regenerate in the light mode are meant to buff her normal attacks or basic attacks in the dark mode. Now, while she's in the light mode, the moment she enters the battlefield or she engages in combat, she's going to regenerate a new stack called dark cores. The purpose of the dark cores is to buff the damage that she can do with her enhanced skills in the dark mode. She can hold a maximum of 3 dark cores, and you get 2 of them in the light mode when she engages in combat. So for example, when you're doing your tower runs, the moment the battle starts, she's going to recover 2 dark cores. And I want you to think of the 2 separate stacks as Cantarella's swimming mode, when she uses the delusive dive, heavy attack, and then she enters the swimming mode, where you can see the stacks that she needs to be able to use perception drain or the enhanced skill that does a lot of damage. So she has the normal stacks, which gets consumed as she keeps doing basic attacks, and then she has the special stacks that buffs her enhanced skill. And the moment she engages in combat in the light mode, she regenerates about 20% of the orange stacks that we talked about earlier, which buffs her normal attacks in the dark mode. So keep in mind that the normal attacks or the basic attacks that she can do in the light mode is probably going to be useful in the overworld if you mainly play Denia on the field. But in endgame content, you're not really going to use it that much. What you can do to speed up her rotations in endgame is to intro, and right after the intro, you press basic attack to use her basic attack stage 4. And right after using basic attack stage 4, all you need to do is press her normal skill, which is this one right here. And keep in mind that this skill has crowd control capabilities. And that basically sums up the stuff that you need to do endgame wise in light mode Denia. So let's get into dark mode. All you need to do is use her liberation right after using her skill to generate full orange stacks, and then she'll transition into dark mode Denia. In the dark mode, she gains new animations or different abilities. She can use normal attacks, and keep in mind that these normal attacks right here that she can do are going to consume the orange stacks that you built up in light mode. She also gains special skills, and one of them is this one right here. This is the default skill that you can use in dark mode Denia. However, if you have at least 1 stack of dark core, she gets an enhanced skill that you can use to do a lot of damage. And basically what the dark core does is that for each dark core that she has, is going to buff the enhanced skill, or it's going to increase the enhanced skills multiplier by 150%, which is absolutely huge. So if you have 3 stacks of dark core, it's going to increase the enhanced skills multiplier by 450%, which is absolutely insane. This opens up the possibility to even play her as a hyper carry if you really want to on-field her, but this would depend on the base multiplier of the enhanced skill, which is called Banish Breakdown Form. So we'll know more once she's officially released. But right now, it seems that it's possible to play her as a hyper carry if you really want to. So in summary, the stuff that you do in her ultimate is basically use her ultimate, which is the first thing that you're going to do, and then use her enhanced skill, which will be available right after entering the dark mode Denia state, And right after using the skill to nuke, what you need to do is basically spam basic attacks, which is these animations right here, to consume the orange stacks that she built up in the light mode. And keep in mind that her basic attacks in the dark mode Denia state will receive an increased multiplier of 50%. So all you need to do is keep spamming these basic attacks right here in the dark mode until the normal skill comes off cooldown. And the reason is that the normal skill and the enhanced skill, this normal skill right here, shares the same cooldown as the enhanced skill. So you just keep spamming the normal attacks in the dark mode state until this normal skill comes off cooldown, and then use this normal skill. Now, once her final ultimate is available, all you need to do is press the liberation button or the ultimate button, and you use the final ultimate, which also nukes the enemy. Everything that I talked about so far shouldn't take you more than 7 to 8 seconds to outro from the field. And speaking of outro skills, Denia has two modes, which is the Fusion Burst mode and the Tune Strain mode. Keep in mind that none of these modes changes the playstyle that I just described earlier. How she plays stays the same, but the only difference is the kind of buffs that she can grant to her teammate. In the Fusion Burst mode, she can amplify Fusion Burst damage by 60%, so the Fusion Burst explosion damage will receive its own damage amplification. And keep in mind that normal damage amplifications doesn't affect negative status damage. So this is one of the few sources of damage amplification for Fusion Burst that you can get in the game after the second phase of version 3.3. In the Tune Strain mode, the incoming resonator has all your damage amplified by 15% for 16 seconds. So this is more of a general damage amplification, which is very similar to Linnea's universal damage amplification that she can provide from her outro skill. After this resonator under this effect, which is the one that received the 15% damage amplification, inflicts Tune Strain shifting, they gain 40% damage amplification instead. So this makes her viable to be played with Luke, since Luke applies Tune Strain shifting. Now, these buffs from her outro skill limits her team building capabilities, because obviously the only teammates that you can pair with her at the moment is Imeth and Luke, unless you want to play any other team for fun purposes or flexing purposes. But this is not even where the main problem lies when it comes to the limitation in her kit design. That issue lies in her inherent skills. I already explained the first inherent skill, which is the one that helps her restore 2 dark cores and 20% of the orange stacks when she enters combat. The second one is where things get a bit concerning. Denia obtains the following effects based on her current resonance mode. So if she's in the Fusion Burst mode, all resonators in the team gain 30% fusion damage bonus. This is actually a general damage bonus that can be helpful if you want to play her in fusion teams like mono fusion teams, for example. In resonance mode Tune Strain, all resonators in the team gain 10 tune break boost. When a resonator in the team has an off-tune build-up rate over 100%, every 10% that runs over increases the resonator's tune break boost by 8 up to 40. Now, this is where the problem lies. This inherent skill right here for Tune Strain mode basically tells you that if you're going to be playing Denia with Tune Strain DPS units like Luke, you're going to need Monnier to be able to do that. Because if you don't pair Monnier with Denia in a Luke team composition, Luke is only going to get 10 additional tune break boost, which adds up to the 10 base tune break boost that he already has, which means that you still need an additional 40 tune break boost to be able to get all the damage amplification from this inherent skill that he has. And the only way to get the 40 tune break boost is to put Monnier in a Denia Luke team composition, so that the 50% off-tune build-up rate that Monnier provides can help provide the remaining 40 tune break boost that Luke needs to be able to get all the damage amplification. Which brings up the same issue that we had with Imeth in her Tune Rupture teams, where she needed to rely on Linnea and Monnier to be able to reach her true damage potential at S0R1. Now, if you've been watching this channel for quite a while now, it's quite clear that I'm not really a fan of designing characters that are mostly dependent on other characters. I don't like how this passive was designed, but hey, it is what it is. It's already in the game. So what you can do to reduce the low damage buffs problem if you don't have Monnier to pair with Denia and Luke is to run the Reel of Splice Memories, which provides an attack buff from the 2-piece for the wielder, and most importantly, it provides 20 tune break boost for everyone in the team. So that means Luke will get 40 tune break boost instead of 60. Now, even though this is a major problem, it doesn't necessarily mean that Lene will be a better alternative for Luke or any tune strain DPS in the future if you don't have Monnier to pair with Denia. Because keep in mind that Denia can provide up to 40% damage amplification to any resonator that can inflict tune strain shifting, which is quite a lot. But I'll run a test between Luke Denia and Luke Lene, and then we'll see the damage difference when she's officially released. That pretty much sums up everything you need to know about Denia before she comes out. So now let me get into her build, and then we'll cover some of the teams that you can play with her. For her build, I don't really recommend you guys to farm and level up the Reel of Splice memories if you have Monnier to pair with Denia if you're going to be playing Denia in a Luke team composition, because Monnier makes sure that Denia can provide all the 40 tune break boost that the passive can provide. So an additional tune break boost to the entire team is not really worth it compared to buffing your main DPS like Luke with attack buffs and damage bonuses, for example. And keep in mind that Denia cannot respond to tune rupture damage or cannot do tune rupture damage. So increasing tune break boost doesn't actually make a lot of sense because you're going to be only increasing the tune break physical damage that you do. And one other thing that you need to consider is that some enemies can also lock their off tune level, which can make the team-wide tune break boost of 20 be useless in certain situations. So if you have Monnier and you plan to pull Denia for any tune strain DPS like Luke, it's better to run Moonlit Clouds so that Luke gets the 12% damage boost in addition to the 22% attack buff when Denia outros from the field. Pact of Neon Leap can also work and is actually much better in terms of damage for your DPS unit because unlike Moonlit, it provides 30% attack in total from the 5-piece effect. The incoming resonator, which is Luke, needs to have 50 tune break boost to be able to get the additional 15% that adds up to this 15% to give you 30%. And it's actually quite easy because when you're running Monnier, Luke gets all the 60 tune break boosts that he needs. The 10% spectral damage bonus from the 2-piece set is useless here. Finally, those that are planning to use Denia with Fusion Burst Imeth should be using the 5-piece chromatic foam. That pretty much sums up the build. Now let's get into the team building. Honestly, there's not a lot of teams that you can play with Denia. Let's pretend Lupa is Denia. So it's going to be Chisa, Lupa, Imeth. The second team is going to be Monnier, Denia, and finally Luke. Monnier is here because of the 50% off tune build-up rate that can allow Denia to give all the 40% tune break boost to Luke. Aside from this team, any other team composition that you're going to be running is going to be very niche because Denia provides damage amplification for units or DPS units that can apply tune strain and DPS units that can do fusion burst damage. And at the moment, there are only 2 units that can do those things, which is Luke and Imeth. But if you still want to play her in other team compositions, you can go for Showkeeper or Monnier. Monnier will be better if you have her S1. And then Lene to buff Liberation damage because Denia skills off Liberation damage, and then Denia as the last slot. This is going to be a hyper carry Denia team composition, and I'm actually very curious how this team is going to perform. Aside from that, you can go for Mono Fusion, where you have Brand to provide sustain and also do decent amount of damage, and Denia, keep in mind that Lupa is Denia by the way, Denia to provide 30% damage bonus from this passive right here. All resonators in the team gain 30% fusion damage bonus if Denia is in the Fusion Burst Resonance mode. And then Denia can also provide 15% damage amplification to Galbarena. Keep in mind that the Chromatic Foam Sonata effect can also provide up to 25% fusion damage bonus to the incoming character, which is going to be Galbarena in a Mono Fusion team composition. So technically, yeah, this team can work, but it's not really something that I would recommend because I think Lupa will be a better option than Denia in this team composition. But again, it's something that demands testing to be able to reach a reasonable conclusion. So be sure to watch out for a lot of showcases when Denia comes out. And that's pretty much everything you need to know to prepare for Denia in the second phase of version 3.3. Our Discord link will be in the pinned comment if you're having any issues with Withering Waves or you just want a place to chill or hang out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.